Hello. So today I wanted to talk because I have been feeling dread and I'm not exactly sure exactly what it's all about, but I've got a feeling. So last Sunday, I was feeling this similar kind of dread. And um, I don't feel dread very often. And I only started calling it dread just now because I realized how all consuming it is. And it's last week I thought it was like the Sunday scaries because it's Sunday. But it happened yesterday, and I think it's actually been happening during the work week, during times when I'm not busy. It's kind of this feeling that creeps up when I've got downtime, and sometimes it shows up as feeling tired, like really just tired and exhausted, and maybe a little overwhelmed, but in a tired kind of way. But it's happened just now too, and I'm not tired necessarily. I mean, I'm always a little bit tired, but I'm not tired, and I'm not feeling overwhelmed. And but I do feel like there is something that I am missing. There's something I'm not seeing. There's something I'm It's not really something I'm not seeing. There's something I'm not understanding. There's something I'm not knowing. There's something I don't know, I don't understand, and I'm aware of that, and it's bothering me. That's something that I've been feeling the past maybe day or two. I was pulling a lot of cards, and I was getting the inner child healing card. And so I've been trying to sit with that, and there's been a few moments where I've tried to kind of release my mind from anything that I'm thinking about and see where I'm taken. And I'm not getting to the points of clarity that are significant enough to help me understand what's happening. But today I went out finally for the first time, really, and I started to explore my neighborhood. And I went to a beautiful park, and I walked around. I got headphones. I came back home. I started to make a little song, and the song that I was making felt like it was from the perspective of my soulmate. And it felt like what I got from the song, it felt like it was my soulmate singing. And it felt like they were trying to tell me, because this past week, and maybe, well, actually these past few years, but this week it's been especially prominent. I've been really going back and forth about who I think I'll end up with when it comes to like gender expression, gender identity. And I've been kind of wrestling with my sexuality. Not because I don't know what I think or feel. I know that I'm queer. I know that I'm bisexual. I know that I'm attracted to men, women, non-binary people. But it has always been a big question. Actually, not always. For these past few years, it has been a big question in my mind about who I would end up with, because I want to be a mother. And that is a very important aspect of the relationship I end up in. And I felt a lot of dread around ending up with a woman because it feels like it's more complicated that way to get to motherhood, and I just don't want complications around that that I can control. And so I feel a little bit of dread around that storyline, but I also am very attracted to women, and I can imagine a beautiful life with a woman as my partner. And so it's complicated there. And then with men, I don't know. With men, to be honest, when I think back to like who I was as a child and I can't remember my daydreams so much as a child, but I remember the actions and the feelings. And when I was thinking about my soulmate and I wasn't thinking about them like a soulmate. But really, when I would think about my soulmate, what I would do is I would think about the father of my children, and I would think about like who my partner would be. I wasn't using like the term soulmate, so it's just like who was my spouse, basically. And as a kid, I always loved pretending to be pregnant. And when I'm trying to think about what I imagined in terms of life, I had a lot of imaginations when it came to my love life as a kid. A lot of my imaginations were with men. And I don't know, I'm not sure what's going on exactly. I think that's why I'm trying to talk this through. I feel like the dread might be connected to this. I think there's something here that I'm trying to figure out, and I think it's challenging me. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm wondering what my inner child wants and what they're trying to tell me. I can imagine a world where the truth is that I am meant to and I want to end up with a man. And the reason why I can understand that world, and it makes a lot of sense to me, is because of motherhood. There's something about, I guess, the simplicity of the dynamic between a man and a woman that is attractive to me from that standpoint, because I think I'm aware that, life is going to be complicated in other ways, and I think there's something comforting to me about the idea of having a husband, because then I'll have the father and then I'll be the mother, and it won't be complicated. There won't be something for me to figure out from that aspect. I think there's something about that tradition that I appreciate greatly. And I think it's so important to me because of how important motherhood has always been for me, and pregnancy, and even the route to getting pregnant. I really do appreciate the simplicity of creating a child between a man and a woman, versus if I had a wife and I needed to find a donor or go through like some type of clinic or agency, and who would carry and how often, and would we switch. And I think I have to admit to myself that is a journey I'm not sure I want to take. I think it might be a little bit too much for me this lifetime. I don't know, to be honest, because when I have my daydreams and my fantasies and I imagine my life with a woman, I'm very happy. And I've created quite a unique dynamic so that we can both be able to carry if we both want to carry, and that we, raise the children together and as each other's, and all of that. This is nothing new, and women do it all the time. And in my own imagination, the father is always around, because I do want to raise my children with their father. I don't want it to just, if I ended up being with a woman, I would really prefer that they also have their father in their life, because I think that the father figure is important, and I don't think that two women replaces that. The same way I don't think, but that's just my perspective, that's just me, I just I can't see myself replacing a father figure, and I can't see my wife replacing a father figure. I think the father figure is separate and still needs to be there. And so that's something I would want if I ended up with a woman. I would want the father to be in the life, and like really in their lives, so that they could go to their dad and talk to their dad, and it's not anything weird. And honestly, if I ended up with a woman, the dynamic would probably more so be that I end up in like a throuple kind of situation, because the parenting aspect is very important to me. It really is. And having a father around it's very important to me. It's not horrible to do without. And obviously, wherever life takes me, I'm not going to say no to my soulmate. But, that's something I care about. So that's something I think about. And so it's kind of built into my daydreams these days. When I imagine being with a woman, I always imagine there being a man in the picture somehow through fatherhood. And then when I daydream about my partner with them being a man, it's much simpler in that aspect, which I can really appreciate. And there are things I really enjoy about that daydream. I have also found, though, this week, and oftentimes, I have a really aggressive, sometimes I can have a very aggressive relationship with men. Aggressive nature with them. Defensive, and like I need to protect myself, like I need to, be some type of head chopping off goddess. I'm referencing a very specific goddess. She always comes through. And I tend to have sometimes I have aggressive imaginings in interactions with men, and I never really have that with women. And so that sometimes makes me question my relationship to men and my attraction to them. But I don't think that has anything to do with my actual attraction. I think that has more to do with existing in the world as a woman, just generally, and the problems that we face. But it's just a lot to work through, and I think that my sexuality and my queerness and all of that it's on my mind heavily because I'm getting older. I'm 24, but for some reason I feel 25. I don't feel 24. 24 feels like an age that doesn't exist. I feel 25, which is interesting because you know what? I think I should probably make this video soon. I had this thing that I developed, this theory, I guess, that I developed about this year, a year 9, and I was like, a year 9, for people who are living in a year 9, you're either a year 8 or you're either in year 8 or you're in year 1, because the number 9 reflects whatever number is around it. Number 19 is actually the number 1. Number 29 is the number 2. Number 39 is the number 3. 9 plus 3 equals 12. 2 plus 1 equals 3. It's numerology. But with numerology, the number 9 always reflects the number around it. And so this is a year 9. It's 2025. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 plus 5 equals 9. So when I was thinking about what this year is defined as, I think about it as either a continuation of year 8, so 2024. So for some people, this year is an extension of 2024, and for other people, this is actually a year 1, which is a fresh start, which is what next year would be. 2026 is year 1. So this would, I guess, be an early start of next year. So either you're extending from 2024 or you're beginning 2026 early. I just don't feel like 2025, it's like a portal. It's kind of like a portal, 2025, but it's also not, because it's like anyways, I don't know. It's hard to describe. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't feel 24. I feel 25. And I feel like I feel 25 because maybe I'm in a year 1. I'm not in a year 8 or a year 9. I think I'm probably in a year 1. But anyways, I'm getting older, and it's more on my mind because it's, before I can have my children, I need to find my partner. And so I'm thinking about them a lot more in realistic terms, like not just about their personality, but like, who will they be? Will they be a man or a woman? What am I looking for? And it's been on my mind really heavily. And I think maybe that's why I'm feeling this dread. I think it's the not knowing. And for some reason, I feel like I might be feeling this dread around not knowing because maybe it's getting closer. And so it's like, I need to have my eyes open, need to be able to see, need to know what I'm looking for, be aware. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not exactly sure. And that's that has been the common denominator in terms of feelings. It's like a feeling of unsureness, but I want to be more sure. Right now, what I feel like is that my soulmate, my life partner, is gonna be a man. And I think my children it's gonna be me and a man. I think I'm gonna marry a man. I think I'm gonna have kids with a man. I'm not quite sure that I'm going to end up with a woman. I don't know. I really don't know. I would love to. I would love either way. I don't have a preference from a love standpoint. I have a preference from a parenthood standpoint, but from a love standpoint, I would love to be with whoever. I do not care I don't care what my soulmate is. It's just about it's the parent part, to be completely honest, that I realize I'm more attracted to the idea of ending up with a man when I think about my experience of motherhood. So that's something that's on my mind. And it's I guess I don't know why I struggle with that so much. I think maybe it's because I am also always trying to prepare myself for every reality so as not to put any, part of me, it's like a protective thing over my life partner because I don't know who they will be. I don't want to, put any type of disappointment on them that's unnecessary. But I think I'm probably being a little bit too hard on myself because as soon as I meet my person and I realize they're my person, I'm not gonna care. I'll figure it out with whatever situation we're in. It's all Gucci. But I think the overthinking, that happens while it's just me, that part makes it so that I feel a little bit of stress around this aspect of life. I feel like that's maybe where the dread is coming from. I'm not sure where else it would come from. But there is a lot of convenience, I think, to ending up with a man that I have to be honest about the fact that I really appreciate. So that's just my thoughts. I guess I just wanted to share that because I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting, and I don't know, I wonder if this is a journey that other queer women go through. I would really love to talk to other queer women who are attracted to multiple gender expressions, multiple sexes, and especially queer women who want to be mothers, because I feel like it's a unique experience, but it's unique to the queer experience of bisexual and pansexual women who hope to be mothers, people who hope to be mothers. And yeah, so I wonder what your experience is like, if you think about this, how you figured it out, if you've met your person, what was that journey like? If you ended up with a woman, how did your feelings change? What were your feelings during the process of trying to get pregnant and figuring out family life? What has that been like? If you ended up with a man, what has it been like? These are things I would love to know about, because they're things I think about, and I think they're conversations that are important to have as people who want to raise children. There's so many ways to have a family, so many beautiful ways to have a family, and it would just be nice to know what the different options can look like in real life, rather than having to just imagine. And I watch like queer, families YouTube channels, not a lot of families, but queer couples who are looking to have children. I have a few women who I watch, and actually I do have one. There's this Swedish couple. Are they Swedish? I think they're Swedish. They might not be. But they're from Europe. They're from that area of Europe, like the Dutch kind of area. I think they're Swedish. But they're so cute, and they have a baby boy, and I think the woman who got pregnant the first time is pregnant again, and I wonder if she's given birth by now. So they'll have two babies. So they've been through this, and like, so I watch channels, queer YouTube channels, and that's not new information to me. And all of those families are so happy, and I'm like loving it, living it, laugh, like love, laugh, joy. But I have never seen anyone with my type of preference of a family style if I do end up with a woman, which is to have the father be an active part of the life, you know? I would even like, to be honest with you, if I end up with a woman, the dream life, which doesn't need to at all end up being the reality, but what I've imagined in my head as being preferable as of right now, would be for us to live on a piece of land, like all together. And maybe the dad has their own like little house, and then we have our house, and our children would live in that house, but like our children can just go to their dad's house whenever they want. And like, in my dream, like also the dad is like kind of a bachelor and doesn't really want a relationship with anybody else but me and my wife, and like our low key is just here for us and the kids, not interested in having outside relationships or outside children. So really what I'm looking for is a throuple. But I have that scenario in my mind because I'm like, what if my wife wouldn't want to be in a throuple? Then they would just need to live on their own, in their own place, and wouldn't want to be in a relationship with us. But we would still be able to have children with them, and our kids would still be able to have access to their father. And it's my preference to not have to go through a clinic. I would like to just do the deed and that's how the children are made, if I can. That's my preference, if I can. So I would also want to find a father who I'm attracted to emotionally and spiritually and physically, so that it's like a real relationship, not just, you know, a drop-off. That's my preference for a queer, if I'm in a queer relationship. That's my dream preference right now, knowing nothing about the reality of having children or anything like that. And it's very much so open to change, and it has nothing, there's no inclusion of my partner's perspective, so all of that would change once I met them and I knew what they wanted. But right now, that's the ideal situation for me, to be able to include the father as much as I can in our children's lives, because I really do want that. I want the father in their life. But it's not as complicated in my dreams, you know? In my dreams, it just is what it is. So I'm not like doing all this thinking, but you know, in reality, I think about it a lot. I spend a lot of time thinking about giving myself different scenarios so that I can, you know, have options. In case I do end up with a woman, I don't feel like I have to do things a specific way that I'm not comfortable with, because, you know, life is what you make of it. You have choices, and there is probably a man out there who would be happy with that type of dynamic, who we would get along with. So I like to envision, you know, the greatest possibilities and many options for myself, but it does cause me a little stress sometimes. So I'm like, I'm not looking just for my partner, I'm also looking for two people, you know? I'm looking for two now, and it's hard enough to find one. It's hard enough to find the one. Now I've got to find two. So sometimes that causes me some stress. But that's just life being a queer girl who wants to be a mom. But it's all okay at the end of the day, and no matter what, I'll be so happy. I'll just be so happy to be with my people, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and I'll be so grateful to have my children, no matter how they come to me. And I don't care, you know, it's all just preference, but it won't matter when we really get down to it, because I just want to have them. So yeah, but I thought I'd share my thoughts, because it's a feeling I've been having, and it's a feeling I have on and off all the time, really. I guess it's just hitting recently again, because I've been having a lot of queer, most of my imaginations with my soulmate have been queer this week. versus like last week or the week before it was mostly with a man, and now it's switched to being with a woman again. And so whenever it switches to being with a woman, I always go to this place and I always start to think about these things, and I don't really have to do that with a man because it's just, there's just certain things that are easier. Though I will say, in my fantasies with a man, there's always my best friend who's a woman. There's always a woman in the picture. It's not a sexual relationship, but there's always like a bestie. Versus in a relationship with a woman, there's no man bestie. There's no male bestie. There's the father, and that's the only man. But I'm such a woman-oriented woman. I really love women, and not just sexually or romantically. I mean, I love women. I just love women as people. I love to be around women. I have sisters. I love my mom and my aunts and my grandmas, and I love my ancestors that are women. I don't know. I'm a girl's girl. So all of that energy is also very important to me. But yeah, I wanted to share that and just talk it through, and maybe that's what this feeling is all about. I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, I'm gonna move on because I actually want to talk about something else now that I've talked about it. I think I'm gonna talk about this whole year thing, and I'm gonna attach it to something else that I think could maybe be connected. So we'll see. Anyways, it was nice to talk. If you have thoughts, please share them with me. And I hope what I said makes sense. And I hope I didn't say anything to offend anyone, because I have no problem with any type of way that people have families. I'm just talking about what I hope for myself. And the reason I don't want to go through a clinic and all of that is just because I don't want to. I just don't want to. I want to be able to do it my way. I don't want to have to go through a system. I just want to do things my own way. I guess the part of me that just wants to be in control of certain things, because it's sad that as a woman I can't just naturally have a baby with another woman. I've got to do all this blah blah blah. It makes me sad, because I think it gives power to the people who are like, this isn't natural. But that's just so stupid. And I wish I could have a baby on our own with a woman. That'd be amazing. That's such a gift, but that's not the way the cookie crumbles for human beings. So that's fine. But I would like to maintain some sense of, getting to do it our own way, rather than having to do it, this structured, systematic way. And there's been gay women since the beginning of time, and there's been gay women who want to have children since the beginning of time. And so there was a way, and there were so many ways that people did it, and it was totally natural and normal and fine. And I would like to do it, I think, one of those ways that's maybe outside of the system a little bit more, and in a way where the father is really integrated into their lives, because that's what I desire for my children, so that they can have everything they need. And that's something that I think would be very fulfilling, I would hope. But of course, I've always got to let these dreams and these fantasies kind of hang in the balance, because they don't include the perspective of my partner yet. And so it's just me doing that work on my own until we get to that place where I can include them and have a more well-rounded conversation. So yeah, I just thought I would share that with you guys and work that out a little bit for myself. And I'm gonna move on to the next topic. Bye.